Did Taylor Swift just admit to being a witch? Taylor Swift has been in the news lately for potentially increasing the NFL viewership by dating another guy. I'm just joking. His name is Travis Kelce, and he's a pretty talented player. But what's interesting is that there's a lot of analysts that are saying that her appearing at his games has actually increased the viewership of the Kansas City Chiefs NFL games. Now, this is interesting because Taylor Swift is potentially single-handedly impacting viewership for one of the biggest American pastimes, NFL football. That's the degree of influence that she has in mainstream culture. But what if she started to subtly use this influence to guide her fans in a much more sinister and dark direction? And what if she flippantly admitted this on her own social media handles? That would potentially mean that one of the biggest pop stars in the world would be driving her audience into dabbling into some pretty dark practices and consuming her casting spells at her live shows and practicing witchcraft, and they may not even know it. And if this is potentially true, this could lead millions of people who listen to Taylor Swift, many of which are people of faith, into not living the fullness of what God has for them and inadvertently practicing some occult and witchy things. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why this needs to be addressed. Because this channel exists to encourage, empower, and inspire people to live a life that blesses God. My name is Ruslan, and if you're not new here, or if you are new here, please hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you're here with us as we're about to crack 500,000 subscribers, and I'd love to celebrate that with you. Okay, so we're going to be looking at this potential admission from Taylor Swift regarding witchcraft. But first, let's define what witchcraft is, what the scriptures say about it. Something happened in Salem a while ago. We're not going to get into that part. Okay, get a little dark. But it's important for us to set this ground for what it is that we're ultimately talking about. The Oxford Dictionary defines witchcraft as the practice of magic, especially for evil purposes and the use of spells. Some similar words are obviously sorcery, black magic, the black arts, the occult, occultism, wizardry, so on and so forth. You get the point. The term witchcraft and witch derived from Old English wicked craft, from wicca, masculine, or wiki, feminine, pronounced witcha and witchha, respectfully, donating someone who practices sorcery, and from craft meaning craft or skill. So a witch is basically someone that's practicing magic, casting spells, doing these sorts of things. And if you keep up with media, this is kind of all over, especially in children's movies. Maybe that's programming, maybe it's innocent fun, who knows? This is kind of a bold thing to claim. And I don't want to be one of those folks that's paranoid and say just because someone's wearing a specific style dress or specific shoes or a specific hat, that necessarily makes them a witch. And this situation is different. And before we go into some of the footage from her live shows and some of the other spooky things that have happened to her fans, let's look at what she openly tweeted on her own verified X account. Witches be like, sometimes I just want to listen to music while pining away, soaking, staring out a window. It's me. I'm witches. Never fear, the Willow Lonely Witch remix is here. And then she takes you to a witch version of her song Willow. Now, before we hear from an ex-witch about Taylor Swift potentially casting spells on her audience at her own shows, let's first take a look at this clip that I wouldn't say is a magic bullet to prove anything, but it's a little spooky. So the caption of this tweet says, never beating the sorcery allegations. She is now familiar that these are real allegations of her practicing these things. So she's tweeting this and clearly dabbling with the idea of sorcery. And as she's singing, I thought the plane was going down. How did you turn it all around? This happens. Now, as we were prepping for this video, we were discussing this clip in particular, and Zach said, hey, maybe she was just near an airplane. Maybe she was doing her show in a stadium near an airplane, the likelihood of an airplane landing while that was happening, despite the plane seemingly looking like it was flying into the stadium. Maybe it was all just a coincidence. Okay, fair enough. But I want to play you guys something from a self-professed ex-witch and what she had to say about Taylor Swift potentially casting spells on her audience at her live show. And then we're going to look at something her audience said that kind of confirms this. Okay, this is from the YouTube page, Dorian Virtue.
Taylor Swift has been accused of witchcraft, and actually for good reason. Take a look also from her Eras recent tour. These are audience recordings of her and her musical entourage dancing to her song Willow. Look at this. She is acting out a witch coven. Now, she might deny it. She may not think she's a witch. She may not think she's engaged in witchcraft, maybe even not. But she is doing one thing for certain. Look at this. She is glorifying witchcraft. How do I know this? Because I used to be engaged in activities just like this. Here's a photo of me. It's a black and white photo because it's of a book I wrote a long time ago about goddesses, about my worshiping in Glastonbury, England. They are dancing around in a symbol of a coven. And some people say they're actually casting spells on the audience. Could be. The Satan works through people. We know that. It's very frightening for Taylor Swift's soul. And most of all, I'm concerned for her fans, especially the young ones.
Is she really dabbling in this stuff? I mean, it's just costumes and something that looks like casting spells and weird cringe dance moves. But check what her fans said in a recent news report after attending one of her concerts. This is a very bizarre turn of events in this story.
For Swifties, seeing Taylor Swift live is a dream come true. But for some of these diehard fans, they have no memory of their concert experience. It's being called Taylor amnesia. You heard that right. Some fans can't remember the concert they attended just moments earlier. That's what happened to 32-year-old Nicole Booz, who saw Taylor earlier this month in Philadelphia.
You spent almost $1,000 on a ticket, right? And you can't remember anything?
It felt like so surreal. Afterwards, as we were leaving, I was like, did she play this song? I don't remember this song. I don't remember her doing that. And just little things like that. But I do remember going to the concert.
Now, I don't know what's more egregious, paying $1,000 to see Taylor Swift live or paying $1,000 and then not remembering anything that you saw. I mean, if she's casting spells on our audience, that one is not very fair. At least let them remember the witchcraft. Now, I'm going to tell you guys what I really think about this whole debacle in a moment. It may shock you, but we can't cover this topic without first examining what do the scriptures say about witchcraft and sorcery and all these things. Leviticus 19:31 says, "Do not turn to mediums or seek out spiritists, for you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God." That's a pretty clear instruction. Somebody might say, well, yeah, Ruslan, that's Leviticus. That's the Old Testament law. I don't think that applies to people today who want to dabble in a little sorcery. Well, check out what the New Testament says. In Galatians 5:19-21, it says, "The acts of the flesh are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity and debauchery, idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissension, factions, and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. I warn you, as I did before, that those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom of God." It's interesting that some of those things we would probably acknowledge that, yeah, those are pretty bad. Yeah, you shouldn't be out here having orgies, different swinger parties. You shouldn't be hating people. You shouldn't be drunk. But it's interesting that according to the New Testament, that witchcraft is slid right in there amongst some things that we would all acknowledge are pretty debaucherous behaviors. But now check out this rather stern warning from the end times book of Revelation. Revelation 21:8 says, "But the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those who practice magic arts, the idolaters, and all liars, they will be consigned to the fiery lake of burning sulfur. This is the second death." So what do I think? Is Taylor Swift a certified witch practicing sorcery over her fans? Look, I don't know. What I do think is that oftentimes these celebrities will start doing things that are aesthetically interesting to them. We've seen Doja Cat do this with some of her things and then deny claims of Satanism. We've seen other celebrities do this, like Sam Smith or Lil Nas X, where they're kind of trolling people, they're kind of mocking Christianity, and they're kind of playing with God in a way, but not knowing that the enemy is real, that he comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and that if we're not on guard, we can easily slide into this sort of thing. And I think that's what's happening with Taylor Swift here. I think Taylor Swift is probably dabbling in some imagery that maybe she thinks is interesting. I think she's probably poking and trolling some of her audience. Obviously, she's known for having some pretty radical leftist views with shouting things like F the patriarchy at her shows and being extremely pro-LGBT in some of her rhetoric. And so I think this is her probably poking, probably trolling, probably dabbling in something she thinks is just a playful aesthetic. But all along, they could be opening up the spirit world to actually interact with her, through her, and in her audience. And so what is my concern or warning for Taylor Swift fans? Listen, I don't think you need to be spending $1,000 to go to anything. I mean, it better be your twin brothers or twin sisters' destination wedding for us to be spending thousands of dollars to go see a concert of someone like Taylor Swift. So honestly, I just think foundationally, it's probably a poor use of money unless you are just balling out of control rich. And I wouldn't be spending that sort of money on going to any concert, let alone a Taylor Swift show. And when you add the layer of sorcery, of witchcraft, of potentially having a spell cast on you that robs you of the ability to remember the actual thing you spent $1,000 on, Sounds like a poor use of funds. And so I'm not saying if you attend a Taylor Swift concert, you're going to instantly catch a demon or have a spell cast on you. That is not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, as a follower of Jesus, as a Christian, why would you want to support someone with your hard-earned dollars that kind of hates you and everything you stand for? I mean, Taylor Swift has consistently said things that are contrary to the scripture. She clearly has a hostility towards values that are biblical. Why would you want to partner with that? I wouldn't. So if you want to hear about a time where Tyrese went on a massive platform and caused some of the same insanity in the music industry and in Hollywood, check out this video of Tyrese on Big Boy in the Morning calling out Satanism in Hollywood. I'll see you over there, all right? Peace.